If you can't beat them, then you pop them. You can't man them, then you mop them. You can't stand them, then you drop them. You pop them, cause we pop them like overred and vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a fresh edition of Bitcoin News Weekly Live. I'm your host, Rob Wallace, and we got a lot of stuff to cover this week. It's been absolutely insane looking back what happened over in Davos. Every single week of 2026, it seems as if something new is happening. Gold is over $5,000. Silver is over $110. What is going on here? It seems that fiat is definitely in a weird state, and we need to take a look around the world and understand what exactly is happening. So let's dive right into the intro to get us all set up for this great show ahead of us. Here we go. At Davos this week, there was a theme. It was a spirit of dialogue. And what Europe got instead was a monologue. The prevailing narrative over the old continent amongst pundits and leaders says that Europe won the conversation the whole entire week. But if we look at it, it's a little bit different. They think that Trump blinked, that the Greenland threat was diffused, and that the rules-based international order survived another stress test. But you might say that was not exactly right. Well, according to historian Niall Ferguson, Donald Trump dominated Davos. Every conversation, every panel, every hallway whisper revolved around this one man, and that alone tells you who actually won. The Europeans treated Trump literally. But that was their mistake. They heard Greenland and panicked. They heard tariffs and threatened retaliation, pleading for norms and rules and multilateralism, as Europe pension funds dropped back and began publicly announcing they were dumping treasuries. But perhaps rather than trying to take Greenland, Trump was running misdirection. That uncertainty is the leverage. And that's what the deeper takeaway is for Bitcoiners. Davos is built on a narrative of control, on the belief that legitimacy flows from institutions, treaties, and shared stories. But when stories fracture, the money fractures with them. This is fiat. This is a whole entire trust-based system that we got going on with the US dollar. And that's why Davos fears Trump more than inflation, more than war, more than AI, because Trump doesn't need their permission, and neither does Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't care whether Europe stands together. It doesn't care about consensus statements or summit communiques. When the world shifts from dialogue to power, from norms to leverage, from promises to enforcement, asset prices reprice. Davos didn't defeat Trump this week. Davos really revealed itself. It was a room full of people who still believe the world runs on credibility instead of capability. And we got a Trump over here who understands power, but Bitcoin understands truth. And that's the connection. This is Bitcoin News Weekly. Let's get into the stack. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by my man over here, Aron Clementi. How you doing?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invite. Pleasure to be here.
Cheers. Yes, thanks for coming. You are head of business development over at Blockstream. So tell us, what is going on? How did you get involved with Blockstream in the first place? And what is the look ahead for 2026 and the storage company that is Blockstream?
Yeah, I joined Blockstream last August through the acquisition of my previous startup. We were building a self-custodian wallet and authentication system to make Bitcoin easier and more accessible. Then we have been acquired in August, and we switch all the team under Blockstream and all the capabilities under Blockstream. And the company became the headquarters of Blockstream in Lugano in Switzerland to lead the European expansion. And one of the main pillar, or the two main pillar we are following right now, is the enterprise expansion and services, and also the consultancy or the added services that we can put on top of a custody system.
Very nice. Very nice. So you were acquired by Blockstream, and now you do business development. So you were looking out at all the different ways in which Blockstream can improve its business. And so tell people what Blockstream does. There's so many different aspects of this company. Just name some of them so that people can get a better idea of all the different capabilities.
In few words, Blockstream is building the infrastructure that runs Bitcoins. And we are now focusing a lot on the financial side of this. And that means making people, bank or financial institution or financial product able to run on the Bitcoin railways and to scale Bitcoin in this sense.
Nice. And so how are you helping to scale Bitcoin right now? What are some of the new initiatives?
Yeah, being a business guy, that's many phases. So I'm following the customer needs to make to help the team make better products. I'm trying to finalize a new proposal to new services, or matching the dots inside the company or outside the company. For example, something I added in the Lugano office that now the other people are following also is the inclusion and alignment with core banking system in Switzerland. Because I don't know if people know, but the banking ecosystem in Switzerland is pretty deep. We have more banks than many other countries, and we also have one of the most famous core banking system. So the operation system that works for banks in order to deal with transaction, asset management, and so on inside a bank. And now the goal of Blockstream is to make our custody and our Bitcoin products align with the stack of the banks in order to be included in this. So actually, I brought this idea of cooperating with distribution partners in Switzerland to go inside a bank in a facilitated way and to be compatible and fully integrated in the banking systems.
Nice. And so does Europe seem to be embracing Bitcoin in its banking system?
Switzerland, yes. I mean, we are one of the oldest countries making regulation on Bitcoin, probably since 2014, if not before. Europe is heavy regulated, but I think at some point they have to change this approach, especially now that they understood they are too far away compared to the innovative plays around the world, especially, for example, in the stable coin field. But in Switzerland, there is a really nice opportunity to grow well.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And actually, you're the third person in a row to come on the show who's in Lugano. We had Giacomo, Roxy, the two leaders of Plan B Network, and now we got you. So strong Lugano presence on the Bitcoin News Weekly live show here on Monday. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, they are great guys. Actually, I'm the only one native from Lugano. I'm
really?
100%.
Cool. Yeah. And I mean, everything I see just looks so beautiful. I got to get out there in October. Absolutely. For the cool stuff that goes down. Well, nice. Let's dive right in. So we are here Monday morning to talk about our newsletter. Bitcoin News Weekly Live comes out every Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, and then we go live at 11 a.m. with a new guest. Today we got Aron, but we got different people from across the Bitcoin ecosystem to help us break down the biggest headlines. And of course, last week was Davos. Lots of headlines coming out of there. But we've got lots of Bitcoin things going on that we got to focus on first. So we start off with the adoption section. And this was really cool. So there's this new thing called Pleb QR. It turns Lightning into a peer-to-peer fiat on and off ramp, letting users pay any QR-based merchant with Bitcoin by matching them with locals who handle the fiat side. So what does that mean? Let's dive into it. Great post by Calais explaining how this new system works. So these things, payment QR codes, are these very popular in Europe? Do people use these a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest fintech in Switzerland is a payment provider that actually work with QR code and just mobile app.
Oh, cool. So yes, I mean, these are somewhat common in America, but I think way more so in especially Asia. Like if you go to China, everything is a QR code payment. It sounds like Europe is picking it up as well, and it's slowly but surely gaining traction here in America too. But Pleb QR allows you to, any company can put this up and you can select any method of payment that you want. You say, I want to pay with Lightning. So say you're at a noodle shop, you scan Pleb QR, you say you want to pay in Lightning, but the company itself doesn't accept Lightning. What it does in the background, Pleb QR finds someone who will take your Lightning and then pay in fiat on the other end to that business. So it allows you to pay in Bitcoin pretty much anywhere, and it's really taken off all over Thailand. So it's super cool. So almost all these merchants across Thailand you're able to pay with Bitcoin because in the background it's peer-to-peer switching Lightning for fiat. So simple, cool stuff. Do you think that this will catch on? Do you think this will be popular around the world?
Yes, I think everything that brings more interoperability will make a lot of sense, especially because people cannot manage swap or changing chain every time they need to spend. So 100% yes.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And continue on with the theme of merchant adoption, Fox News reports on the rapid growth of Las Vegas businesses accepting Bitcoin, as the number of US merchants taking Bitcoin has surged 5x since Square enabled Bitcoin payments on point of sale terminals. So yeah, while QR codes aren't as popular in America, the Square terminals allows it to be. So this is a great map made by, of course, Wicked Smart Bitcoin. Follow him, has great charts, great interactive videos. But you can see here, this is October of last year. There's like 1,300 Bitcoin merchants across America. But we, in the course of just the last 4 months, you see this November, they turn on, and then you can see this map just light up like crazy. We went from 1,000, now we're at 2,000 by the end of November, 3,000 in December, and the number just keeps going up, 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 up. It's super funny. This is not allowed in New York, so there's no dots here in New York, but heavy in New Jersey. Love to see it. It's where I'm from, all over Texas, California is lighting up. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane how there went from 1,000 registered merchants who accept Bitcoin in the end of 2025, and now there's over 5,000 at the beginning of 2026. Have you looked into the Square terminals and their accepting of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I saw them. Actually, it's not so big the number in the map. I expected more, honestly.
Well, if it keeps growing like this, then we'll see a whole lot more. But yeah, it's just starting. Again, it's so hard to get Bitcoiners to part with their Bitcoin, right? To pay with anything, but we've got to do it. We've got to get Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, keep this thing alive and vibrant. Do you agree with that? Do you pay with Bitcoin when you can? Lugano, it's pretty popular.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to speak about Lugano, I think is one of the best example. We are using the city like a playground of testing for all these this approach and these Bitcoin initiatives. And honestly, especially in countries where the fiat currency work pretty well outside of inflation, I think the stable coin are more used to transfer and payments in general. This is maybe better for people that want to use a different kind of value. In Switzerland, in Lugano especially, everything started during the COVID with the idea of starting again with the economy, and especially the circular economy, local economy in Lugano. So they started implementing the local token and then adding Bitcoin in the same app. So actually, the goal was not really to push Bitcoin directly, but make an app that makes sense for the citizens and where they can actually find Bitcoin and discover Bitcoin in the second step. So you have been driven by the incentives of cashback and spending money in the city after the COVID, and then you discover Bitcoin more and more. That was the approach.
Yeah, I think that's any way that we can get people into Bitcoin, everybody takes a different path towards it. But yes, once they start using stable coins to buy things, it's the next logical step to start saving in Bitcoin. So I think that's a great way to do it. Cool.
I have Bitcoin, for example, in the pension funds in Switzerland.
Really? Is that popular?
I don't know how much popular it is. I mean, you can do everything you want with we have few pillars of pension and retirement plans, but there are also the custom one where you can allocate maximum 5% on Bitcoin. Not so much, honestly, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sure that number will grow. Speaking of numbers, very interesting video coming out this week by a Bitcoiner named Anik Malcolm. He releases a short film exploring the beauty and deeper meaning behind Bitcoin's 21 million limit. So I actually have that video here that we can watch just a little bit of to get a feel for what it's like. Let's do that right now.
Hello, my name is Anik Malcolm, and this is a video explaining the incredibly elegant mathematics I found hidden within the sacred 21 million number, as displayed in my series of works titled The Whole Entire Universe. I sincerely hope that it can astonish you the way it has astonished me in such a profound way. Even if you're not into numbers, there is a simple beauty to it that is undeniable. My original idea was to create an artwork showing 21 million of something, so that people, including myself, could actually see what 21 million looked like. I mentioned this to my wife Una, and she responded with, "A cube of 21 million beads." I loved this idea, as it both used the solid cube form so common in Bitcoin, and also the bead, which was one of the very first methods of exchange.
So yeah, this is a cool video. I love the animation style. It's very relaxed and interesting, dives deep into the numbers, and actually, funny enough, when we posted this weekend, none other than Mr. Blockstream himself, Adam Back, fell in love with it. He said, nice, he's a numbers guy, right? He knows his math, and he was impressed with this video and was going into the mathematics behind it all. Do you interact with Adam at all?
Yeah, of course I had interaction with him, but I think I cannot really comment the mathematics that he's explaining, because there is no one better than him.
Yeah, no doubt. Where have you seen Adam? What were your interactions with Adam like?
I saw him last time in Lugano, and we had deeper discussion before the acquisition. I hope to see him more in Lugano, honestly, because we have a lot of things to do, and I will meet him in the next days here in El Salvador.
Oh, you're in El Salvador?
Yeah. I'm a bit with a jet lag right now, but I'm in a sunny El Salvador.
Cool. What do you got going on there?
There is the Plan B forum. So what we are doing in Lugano is replicated in El Salvador. We build like a bridge between these two cities or countries. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we also have private events outside of the conference to discuss capital on Bitcoin, tokenization compliance, liquid adoption, and many other stuff, mainly with business partners.
Cool. Dive into that a little bit more, the connection between Lugano and El Salvador.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, everything I think was started by Bukele when he decides to change the country and to make the country, open for new technologies and Bitcoin. In Lugano, except the city that also really innovative, also Tether with Paolo Ardoino is leading, some of initiative, especially what happened here in El Salvador. There is Giacomo Zucco, really close to all the educational and Plan B content crossing countries. So yeah, the goal is to have people traveling around and back and forth from San Salvador and Bitcoin, from developers to companies. I know that the regulation in El Salvador is going to compete a lot with Panama, for what I know. And the goal is to build a kind of native Bitcoin country outside of the legal tender, because there is not only the legal tender initiative, but also from banks and companies and regulation point of view.
No, it's amazing. I mean, 20 years ago, who would have thought that Switzerland and El Salvador are teaming up to forge the world forward in the world of digital economy and the new Bitcoin platform? So absolutely amazing stuff. Very, very
yes.
Cool.
Sounds crazy, because Switzerland is not really a Latin country or something that looks like El Salvador. But I think something that they have in common is the values and the openness on technologies in general. Switzerland is the most innovative country for 14 years in a row.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nice. Respect.
Yeah. We have a little gap between research and innovation in general, because we have probably two of the most powerful universities and a lot of people coming from abroad to build companies and research in Switzerland, and we have a little gap in the daily life of people. So there is a gap between what actually have been built in Switzerland and what Swiss citizens are using every day.
Mm-hmm. Well, keeping the European theme, this I got to ask you about. So the Netherlands. It was announced that they're moving towards taxing unrealized gains on different kinds of assets, but including Bitcoin, including cryptocurrency, with the 2028 reform that would levy annual taxes on paper profits, even if assets were never sold. So we posted this in the last week, and it really blew up. A little further information. Netherlands is moving toward taxing unrealized capital gains on Bitcoin, stocks, bonds, and other assets after Parliament voted to overhaul annual income tax filings. Under the new system, investors will owe tax each year based on changes in asset value, even if nothing has been sold. The reform, known as some Dutch words. Box 3 is scheduled for 2028 and will tax actual returns by measuring the difference between an asset's value at the start and end of the year, plus any income received. Wow. So this means both realized and unrealized gains will be taxed. Critics warn that the shift could create serious liquidity problems, forcing investors to pay taxes on paper gains without having cash out. So this really ruffled a lot of feathers. People are pretty upset about this. I mean, just the over 2.6 million impressions. This thing was shared far and wide because I think people realize that, yeah, man, countries, they're getting further and further down the line in terms of taxation and what they think that their citizens will put up with. So what is your take on unrealized gains tax? Do you think this is something that was actually will happen and will spread?
I don't think it's a real or a good decision, actually. And it's not even an economical decision, because I cannot name an example of countries doing this and succeed or having, improvement in the economy. I think it's more an ideological decision. And I think something that country still don't realize is that it's not the country itself against the people inside the country, but today countries are competing with each other. So even if Netherlands is making this choice, people are really free to move somewhere else and find a better place to put their money in. So instead of making the country more attractive compared to the other ecosystem around, they are forcing people to go away. And I don't think it's a nice economical decision. Also because if I take Lugano as example, but I think the goal of Lugano was actually showing the best phase of this market in general. We had a lot of people moving in, and Lugano is not, the best place for taxes in Switzerland. You can move probably better places for taxes in general. But what really make people move in Lugano is the ecosystem and the people that you can find around. So attracting people is not only attracting capital, but people itself, families, companies, and all the stuff that can grow. And they will pay taxes, even outside of the capital gain.
Yeah, 100%. It's the sovereign individual thesis, right? People will vote with their feet. They will go to where they themselves and their capital is treated best. And the Netherlands is showing, yes, that's not a place for that. It's really quite the drastic move. And it's just crazy to me how these politicians don't understand some simple things like the Laffer curve, right? Like there's a certain amount of taxation you can give to your people before it starts diminishing returns. So crazy stuff coming out of the Netherlands there. And we're seeing it in America too, right? California is talking about a billionaire's tax where they would tax just the billionaires, but their shares of the companies in which they own, right? And it's causing all this capital flight out of one of the richest states in the world. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think they are not trying really to understand the workflow of billionaire, and they are just focusing on individuals. And
Yeah.
I mean, society, of course, is made by individuals, but you have to look the sociology behind, not just the capital of individuals.
100%. And so right now, I would like to give a shout out to our good friends over at Rhino. Rhino is giving you access to financial services all in one place that have never been put together for Bitcoin before. So how is Rhino different? Rhino is a next generation Bitcoin banking app designed to handle all of your Bitcoin needs in one place. Here's what you can do with Rhino. Of course, you can buy Bitcoin at some of the lowest fees anywhere. That means more sats for every dollar that you spend. You can make payments over the Lightning Network, instantaneous, minimal fees. An amazing experience. If you've never used Lightning, you got to start using Lightning. You can send cash globally over Bitcoin rails. So it gets there fast, easy, and perfect for friends and family in other countries you need to get money to. And of course, there is the DCA, set up automatic savings so you can stack sats on your schedule when you like at your preference. And this is just the beginning. Coming soon, Rhino will let you pay bills, direct deposit, borrow against your Bitcoin, and even save for retirement all seamlessly in one app. And of course, security is a top priority. Rhino protects your Bitcoin with biometric verification, 24/7 fraud protection, and the confidence of knowing your Bitcoin is never, ever rehypothecated. And for long-term holders, of course, you can withdraw to cold storage. And if you use Casa as a multi-sig, Rhino even allows you to use their app as one of the keys for your multi-sig. So today, go to rhinobitcoin.com, tap the link in the description, and you can use code Bitcoin News, they will drop you $10 of free Bitcoin into your wallet just for getting started. So Rhino is built to help you keep control of your Bitcoin every minute of every day. Go check them out. Great team, awesome app. If you have any questions, hit them up on Twitter. They'd be more than happy to share. So let's get back into it. We've got to get Aron back on stage. And what I want to talk about with you next is the situation over in France. Another crazy story. So in France, a Waltio, have you heard of this? A French crypto tax platform is hit with an extortion attempt as hackers claim data of 50,000 users, prompting a cybercrime probe and rising crypto-related scams, threats, and kidnappings in France. It seems like every week on this show, we talk about something else going on in France. Last week, it was a tax agent actually selling data of crypto users to criminals. And now we've got a crypto tax platform that is been hacked and is being extorted. And now 50,000 French users are having their information up on the dark web for sale. And this just comes after there have been dozens of attacks on Bitcoin holders in France over the last year alone. So have you heard about this? I mean, Lugano is not far from France. What is the situation for Bitcoiners over there in France? And is this true? Are you hearing of these attacks?
Actually, the attacks in France are pretty common. It's not the same. It's not the first time it happens, and in France is a critical situation for security reason. In Lugano, never happens, but we had attempt theft years ago. Nothing executed actually, but the kidnapping argument is now really important for people, especially that Bitcoin price goes up, and people, of course, they need to show face for businesses. It's really a matter of security.
Yeah, it seems as if France, it's particularly bad in terms of what's going on over there. Glad to hear that Lugano doesn't have to deal with that right now. But yeah, OPSEC, keeping yourself safe is definitely going to be a higher priority for all Bitcoiners as time goes on.
I personally heard many cases where, we know that once you already have, your wealth, the second step is to protect the wealth, and the privacy comes first. Few months or last year, I don't remember actually when, a similar data leaks happened to Ledger, the other wallet company. And I know a client of them that actually was really preoccupied, not for the money itself, but for the privacy and the address of his own. Unfortunately, he was in a safe country, so no problem. But he had to do a mess to protect the privacy itself.
It's never too early to get started on working on your privacy, nor too late. You got to clean up your act online. Be sure you're not too flashy or calling attention to yourself in ways that you do not want to, and protect yourself, right? Health is wealth. So
yeah, this happened also with e-commerce. So they can crack the e-commerce information. So if you know a physical place where to buy this hardware that cannot be compromised, so a secure place, not second hands on Amazon, maybe this is a better idea.
Agreed. Yeah. And there's other options where you can buy a hardware wallet in person rather than give your information online, right? That's a great alternative.
Pay cash and you're fine.
Yes. Cool. All right, let's hop over here. Interesting thing going on over in Oklahoma. Lawmakers introduced Senate Bill 2064, which would allow state employees, vendors, and private businesses to voluntarily negotiate payments in Bitcoin. What? Very cool. Yeah, we actually have a article on that on bitcoinnews.com. So, Oklahoma considers letting state workers and vendors get paid in Bitcoin. How would this work? Oklahoma would let workers accept Bitcoin payments without replacing the US dollar. Employees could split pay, choosing pricing, timing, and use self-custody or custodial wallets. And proposal eases licensing rules for digital asset-only firms and sets a 2026 start with tax guidance in 2027. So pretty cool that we're seeing people being allowed, or I guess the state is sanctioning, you're allowed to be paid in Bitcoin in Lugano. Are people paid in Bitcoin in Lugano?
Especially during Plan B forum, yes. During the year, not so much, but they do sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And I mean, Oklahoma, you don't think of Oklahoma as the most progressive Bitcoin state, but hey, I mean, this is pretty awesome to see. And last year, we thought that there would be this whole flurry of strategic Bitcoin reserves. There was a whole bunch of laws introduced. Very few of them actually went through, but it does seem as if there is new momentum in terms of these Bitcoin laws happening on a state-by-state level. And it's pretty cool to see Oklahoma taking up an interesting choice.
I think the next step outside of payment railways will be to see those businesses actually keeping Bitcoin in the stack. So actually do treasury and compound accumulation of Bitcoin when they receive payments, not just converting them to fiat again.
Perfect segue into our next topic, Steak and Shake. Will pay employees a 21-cent Bitcoin bonus for every hour worked, effectively turning hourly wages into sats accumulation, with Bitcoin collectible after a 2-year vesting period. Steak and Shake has been one of the greatest success stories in terms of Bitcoin treasury companies, companies accepting Bitcoin over here in America for payment, turned it on in 2025, and now they've gone all in. They have, of course, a Bitcoin burger. You can pay with Lightning at any shop that you go to. They even bought $10 million worth of Bitcoin in the last week. And now they offered this new plan where all employees stack sats for every hour that they work. 21 cents of Bitcoin will be added onto their pay. There's a 2-year vesting period, so they cannot get access to it until after the 2 years are up. But I think that's a great addition in the sense that it allows people to see the power of Bitcoin. It's being held for them. Fold is actually working with this with Steak and Shake to make this happen. So it's held. They can see it grow over time. As every hour they work, they add 21 cents worth of sats, and that value will grow as we expect the Bitcoin price to go up. Pretty cool initiative over here. What do you think about this?
I think this is the best way to spread Bitcoin around people. So this is a minimum effort for the employee, and the employer is the distributor of that. So if we can use this network distribution, people will find Bitcoin under their bed.
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty awesome to see an employer say, hey, we think that this is great for our employees. I mean, it's rare that you see employers actually care about the financial well-being of their employees on such a level. But hopefully this really takes off and it creates a lot of Bitcoiners over at Steak and Shake.
The general strategy for me is to use central point of trust to distribute this, because we are Bitcoiners, we know our stuff, but we cannot expect that other people will follow us just because Bitcoin is great. We have to put Bitcoin in the hands of trusted points to distribute this as a vehicle. I mean, there are pros and cons of this, of course, but if the adoption is the mass adoption is the goal, we have to go where people go. So the employer is a nice case of trust and needs.
Absolutely. You're right. And as we said before, Bitcoin will find you in different ways. So now we have Bitcoin accumulation wallets holding between 1 and 1,000 Bitcoin are up 33% over the last 24 months. A quiet signal that mid-size holders are steadily gaining conviction. So a big theme of 2025, of course, was the fact that whales were selling. They were offloading. Right. And so we saw a lot of whales with over 1,000 Bitcoin selling on the open market. And that's sort of one of the reasons why we've churned over here in this range for so long. But if you look at holders between 100 and 1,000 Bitcoin, that number is going up. So what do you think? What kind of holders are in that range between 100 and 1,000 Bitcoin?
That's a really, really nice question. I don't have the real analytics on the supply distribution. Could be companies, could be rich individuals that now they can step by step buy Bitcoin through financial institution. So as I said before, now rich clients can use the trust of the bank to onboard Bitcoin, not just by themselves. This is one of the most case, in my opinion. Companies, yes, we see growing treasury companies. There are not so many companies with more than one. Yeah, I actually have no real numbers on the treasury company Bitcoin accumulation, but for sure the wealth clients in the financial institution are buying a lot now.
That's a good call. I mean, Bitcoin treasury companies, of course, were a huge story in 2025. And if we pull up Bitcoin Quant over here, yeah, so that could be one set of course, accumulators. Let's do this. Yeah, I mean, the biggest boys are over here in the 10,000 to 709,000 Bitcoin. Actually, they just upped that number to 712,000 announced strategy this morning. But yeah, a lot of these companies, of course, are, but these are actually above that 1,000 limit there. So it's interesting. If it's individual wealthy people who are really driving that number up in terms of the 100 to 1,000 wallets.
If you see, for example, H100 Group, the guy, the CEO, is also in our office in Lugano, and they are from Norway now, also building treasury company. And if you eliminate the mining companies, and if you get all the company numbers in US or in Europe, there are not so many companies doing Bitcoin treasury in scale.
Yeah. And I mean, Blockstream, Adam Back is involved with some Bitcoin treasury companies, right? This one, right? Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company with 30,000, number 5 on the list. Is that a talk at Blockstream at all? Do you guys talk about Bitcoin treasury companies?
Yes, I mean, the product we are building will serve Bitcoin treasury company for sure. And we are now thinking about new products, not only the custody itself. Of course, the custody is the first phase or the first step to get into Bitcoin for sure. But then a bank needs a lot of services for themselves to manage Bitcoin, to advise clients, to get some data, to transact across banks. So the topic right now in Blockstream is how can we serve at the best the institutional clients in every form, from the hedge funds to the treasury company to the portfolio managers in general. So we can see many opportunities in this.
Yeah, infrastructure is desperately needed. This is a whole new kind of business, Bitcoin treasury company, and Blockstream is definitely in the pole position to provide much of that much needed software and infrastructure in the background. That's great. Cool. So another interesting form of a business getting into Bitcoin are insurance companies. Delaware Life Insurance Company adds a Bitcoin-linked option to its annuities via a new index from BlackRock, blending S&P 500 exposure of 65% with a 22% allocation to IBIT. Wow. Life insurance, getting involved with IBIT. Do you think this makes sense for insurance companies to start playing around with Bitcoin?
For sure, yes, makes sense. And I think for BlackRock, even more, because what they are doing actually is to force people to go away of self-custody. We also had some rules in Italy, for example, where people in self-custody pay more taxes than the custodian one or the ETF customers. So the feeling is, okay, we cannot beat Bitcoin. We understood that Bitcoin is unstoppable, but we can stop self-custody. And we can see this also with this shitty regulation about money transfer in Europe, routings, AMLs, and all the stuff.
So there's a higher tax rate for Bitcoin held in self-custody in Europe?
I don't know if this is Europe-wise, but in Italy, yes, they are trying to fight against self-custody. And with the travel ruling, law that we have in Europe, you have to declare every transaction more than 1,000, especially for self-custodian wallet going in and out from exchange. So the goal is to have KYC user listed in exchange that can transfer easier between them.
So that rule is in place now in 2026. Do you have to report every Bitcoin transfer over 1,000 euros?
Already before, yes.
Wow. Have you had to do that? Like, what does that look like? How do you submit that information to the state?
Honestly, for example, I had my experience in Bitfinex. When you want to go and send outside of the exchange, you just have to mention the ownership of the wallet where you are sending.
So it's not too onerous, right? It's a
No, I mean it's not something that is a light stuff, but still exists.
yeah. And it's annoying, right? They're just trying to add as much friction as possible to this freedom money when you're supposed to be able to just send it peer to peer. Come on, guys. Come on.
Same they are doing with the cash. Thanks God I'm in Switzerland and we can go around with 100,000 in cash. But if you go in Italy or if you go in Europe and even more in the future, they are trying to ban cash also. And this is a really bad movement, I think.
And what do you think is the real reason behind this? Why are they so scared of cash?
Because they want to control you. They want to keep everything under control, and this is a slow transition in a more centralized payment network and payment system where they can actually see all the spending.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I don't want to get inside geopolitical or only strong opinion, but we saw that in COVID and many other occasions where they were trying to analyze the spending habits and put rules on top of it.
Yeah, they want to know what you're doing with your money,
and also taxes, because if you do card transaction, they get a fee in every step.
Yes, they see everything you're doing. Well, let's bring it back to the treasury companies over here, and we've got GameStop. GameStop was supposed to be this epic treasury company last year. They announced in May that they were buying over $500 million worth of Bitcoin. There was a big announcement during the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas. Ryan Cohen, he filmed a video. They played it live that, yes, they made this huge splash into Bitcoin. They raised billions of dollars. They spent $500 million on Bitcoin. But what are they doing now? GameStop moves all 4,710 Bitcoin worth about $420 million to Coinbase Prime, the exchange's institutional platform, signaling a likely sale just months after purchasing Bitcoin for over $500 million. Everyone says when you buy Bitcoin, you got to be ready to hold for the long term, at least 4 years to realize, so you can realize gains. These guys couldn't even make it 1 year. They are selling 4,700 Bitcoin after buying in May, and now it's in January that they want to sell. Absolutely horrible lettuce hands. What do you think about this?
I think some companies for sure are doing this because they have nothing else that they can do and use the leverage of Bitcoin to get money. At the end, for GameStop, this was just a financial operation, but it's not really in the soul of the company, not even the operational side. So if I can just give my opinion from a customer point of view, if I have to focus on a treasury company, I will go for a treasury company that put the hands on really and understand Bitcoin. That's why I think for a lot of institutional BSTR from Adam Beck, and the ecosystem of Blockstream is a really nice choice because we know what we are speaking about, and it's not just to go forward and compete against the other companies. It's also to demonstrate that we are the player working on in the infra side.
100%. If you're going to invest in these Bitcoin treasury companies, you need to look at the people who are running this strategy. And if they aren't real Bitcoiners, they're doing it just for a media splash, they're probably not going to hold the Bitcoin for the long term. Yeah. And thus you should be aware of that.
At the end, buy Bitcoin is a buy button that you have to click. But outside of this, what the company does, that's the from my point of view, one of the most important questions.
Absolutely. In other treasury news, we had the Semler Scientific and Strive merger go through, and now Strive is raising $150 million via a public offering of their perpetual preferred stock to refinance Semler Scientific's debt and buy more Bitcoin. So we saw the merger happen, and now they are going to raise more money via their SATA, perpetual preferred stock. Have you looked into these perpetual preferred shares like STRC and SATA, where people can buy the stock and then get a nice dividend from them? Do you think that is the way forward for treasury companies?
Honestly, I never went deeper on this scheme. I would like to do it to give more, accurate opinion.
Cool. And then to round out the treasury section, we have Strategy Fail, a new site by Anil Patel, who makes awesome Bitcoin educational material. So this website, it tracks every MSTR every time that the company was called dead. And if you bought $100 of MSTR after each fail call, you'd be up 119%. So of course, we all know about the Bitcoin obituaries. This is a similar website, but for strategy. And as you can see, it's been called dead multiple times, but has always risen up again. So it's very interesting how it keeps track here of if you bought $100 each time that it was called dead, you'd be up 119%. So the haters abound. But do you think strategy is in a good place right now?
Yeah, it's not about strategy, it's about Bitcoin. So the correlation of assets is, almost 1-to-1. So the same is happening with Bitcoin for the last, 15 years.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what's really funny is that 2025 was the first year in which there were no in any major publications new Bitcoin obituaries. So that's quite the accomplishment for Bitcoin, not to be called dead for a whole 365 days. But here we are.
We on Twitter we made too much memes on that, so they said, no, maybe this time we have to avoid a spread of memes about us.
Yeah, cool, man. Yes, so now I would like to give a shout out to our boys over at Arch. Arch is really cool because Bitcoin, you want Bitcoin because number goes up. It saves your purchasing power. But the hardest part is you don't want to really sell your Bitcoin. So this is where Arch comes in. For a Bitcoiner, you did the hard part. You stacked sats, you held, you didn't panic sell. But real life still happens. I mean, there are taxes, there's a house you want to put a down payment on, maybe a new car. And when it comes to selling your Bitcoin to get the cash, it feels just sort of wrong. And that's where Arch comes in. It lets you borrow against your Bitcoin instead of selling it. Think of it like a flexible line of credit with rates starting as low as 8.5% APR. That's a big deal. They just lowered it from 9.5% to 8.5% started. Very, very cool. So you borrow what you need, repay anytime, and only pay interest on what you use, all without triggering a tax event. The best part, the Bitcoin stays yours. They have a strict no rehypothecation policy. Your collateral is never ever lent out. It's held in a qualified, insured, bankruptcy remote custody with full transparency. Check them out today at archlending.com. That's ARCH lending.com. Cool. Now back to the show. Let's get Aaron back up here. And what I would like to talk about next with you is the mining section. We had some really cool stuff happen in the mining world this week. This project really blew my mind. So Wallax, they launched a conversion kit for BitAxe, turning it into a discrete wall-plugged miner with no cables or clutter, designed for easy assembly so users can simply plug in and start hashing anywhere. Check this thing out. I don't know if you saw this video this week. But so a BitAxe is a small desktop Bitcoin miner. So this thing called the Wallax, it's this enclosure. You can plug it in. You put your BitAxe inside, and then you can just plug this in at any outlet. This guy is here. He's mining Bitcoin at the airport. What do you think about that?
I mean, mining is really interesting for me, especially in the last times. When I was younger, I was working in the university around 2016, probably. And we had to, teach students to not use university electricity to mine Bitcoin through USB miners.
Oh yeah, that was a problem.
if this become famous around, they will have to put signs with no mining with our electricity.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, this thing uses a BitAxe. Do you know the BitAxe?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this has been really popular. We should just bring that up in terms of letting people see what a BitAxe looks like, what's inside that orange box there. But yeah, it looks like this. You sit it on your desk. It's got a little fan on it. You can hear it whirling, and it gives you about 1.1 terahashes, right? So the odds of you finding a block with one of these guys is rather slim, but it's still possible. I think with 1 terahash, if you leave it running for a full year, you have roughly 1 in 10,000 chance to find a block. But the amazing thing is that they actually have found blocks before, right? I think there's been at least 4 or 5 BitAxe blocks that have been found over the last year and a half. So these things, they're not just little novelty pieces. They actually do find blocks if you're a lucky user, lucky miner. And in some ways, they do help decentralize the Bitcoin network. That is a big problem that we are seeing. And this is the guy, Gioluz. He's the one who made this project. If you go over to his Geyser, you are able to support him on this project. This is he's about halfway there to his goal, and really worth going and checking out. Super cool project with the Wallax. Do you believe in home mining, and do you think that it is something that will help decentralize the Bitcoin network?
Yeah, I can say a lot on it. Actually, with my family, we work in real estate in Lugano, and I would like to push this approach on Bitcoin home mining, but not from a personal point of view. I'm speaking more on the Bitcoin heating system, for example, for buildings and broader building infrastructures. I think this is an essential step. We as a city, or as a society, we have to better manage electricity and heating in general, and Bitcoin can play really well on this. Together, with heavy, electrical vehicles, storage system, solar panel, distribution energy grid, and whatever. I think mining, not only in places where the electricity is really cheap, like Kazakhstan or whatever, but also in normal cities, can play a big role.
Cool. So, are there any buildings being heated with Bitcoin miners in Lugano yet?
Not yet. We have one of the biggest supercomputer in the world. I think is the first one in Europe. That is, we have a supercomputer working for the ETH of Zurich and the CERN in Geneva, and is being cooled with the water of the lake, and we are recycling the hot water, to provide hot water to the stadium. And we are also using, the dependence, the direction of the water going back to the lake is also generating electricity again. So this kind of system in critical infrastructures are well known for our hypercomputing in general, but the same can happen with Bitcoin. So,
wow, yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, there are, like in New York City, there's a bathhouse that is using Bitcoin miners to heat their saunas and their pools. And it's really cool when you flip your thinking around in terms of Bitcoin mining and think that right now people think that Bitcoin miners, their main product, of course, is hashing and the byproduct is heat. But when you flip your thinking and think that the main product is the heat and the byproduct is the hashing, it creates a whole entire different industry, essentially.
As insider, I can tell you that the problem is not really Bitcoin or technical feasibility, is more convincing people to do that, especially when builders and workers in real estate are older people mainly, especially the guys with the funds that are promoting these buildings. So the goal is to find the good people around that allow you to put innovation in general. I mean, there are markets like real estate that are not really innovative. But still, there is a lot of innovation to implement, and Bitcoin can play a role in many of these, old markets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to touch every single industry.
Yeah, and infrastructures, hypercomputing, Bitcoin, AI training, all these, technological advantages that can put in our infrastructures, I think will be really nice, because we cannot rely only on data center, only on solar plants, or only on centralized mining facilities. Distributing these is a power, and managing energy the centralized way is a a powerful things to do.
Oh, 100%. And another really cool thing about Bitcoin mining is that you can point your hash rate anywhere in an instant. So we just saw this week. NiceHash donated 1 exahash of Bitcoin hash rate in under 10 minutes to the 256 Foundation's Hashathon, supporting the nonprofit's open source work on Bitcoin mining, energy research, and education. So if you're a Bitcoin miner, one thing that helps keep the network decentralized is the fact that you can choose which pool you want to point your hash rate to. And so the 256 Foundation, they are a Bitcoin mining education foundation. And so they do these things called a hashathon. People can point their miner's hash towards them over a certain amount of time, and they hope to get a lot of hash rate and find a block. And it actually happened. Their last hashathon, I believe, they did find a block with all the hash rate that was pointed towards them over the course of one day. So it's really amazing how you can see NiceHash pointed an exahash towards them for an hour, and then we're able to switch it back to their pool in a moment's notice. So yeah, this is really cool, isn't it?
Yeah. This is also new for me, but really nice.
Yeah. Do you know NiceHash?
Never heard before, actually.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They're a European Bitcoin mining company. Been around for a very long time in the Bitcoin space. Cool,
Okay.
cool stuff. Yeah, definitely check them out. And then we will go over to the final section. So Kansas lawmakers, they introduced a new bill. We got to read into this because this is kind of crazy, actually. Bitcoin gets special treatment in Kansas's new digital assets reserve bill. So they want to create a strategic reserve over in Kansas, but they're going to do it with unclaimed digital assets. What does that mean? So instead of buying Bitcoin with taxpayer money, this bill would use unclaimed digital assets that already fall under state law. The bill has already taken its first step forward. So it takes a different approach than most Bitcoin reserve proposals. Kansas would not purchase Bitcoin on the open market. Instead, the reserve bill would be built using digital assets that have been abandoned by their owners, along with rewards earned from those assets over time. Under the bill, any amount of digital assets would be considered abandoned if the owner has been inactive for 3 years after the state or a custodian tries and fails to contact them. So this is crazy to me. Many of these different states have tried different laws to create a strategic reserve. Some are going out and buying it, like Texas. Others are using seized assets from like criminals, as in Arizona. But Kansas, they want to create a strategic reserve. If you leave your Bitcoin on an exchange or custodian and don't touch it for 3 years, they're going to reach out to you. And if you don't answer them, they're going to take your Bitcoin and use it to create a strategic reserve. That's insane. Well, what do you think about this?
I didn't expect that was legal, honestly. I mean, they can do the same with your house maybe one day. I have no idea. But doesn't seem fair to me.
No, not at all. What? Just if you just let your Bitcoin sit there for 3 years and don't move it, there's plenty of people who have just let their Bitcoin sit for 3 years. And that's how they want to create it. Oh, what is this law? I think this needs to be shot down.
From a legal point of view, I don't think the ownership have been, assigned by the activities of the wallet. I mean, ownership is ownership outside of the movements.
Yeah, no, absolutely insane. Not a fan of this. We got to go over to Kansas and see what they're thinking, because there's better ways. There's better ways to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Definitely, yes.
Well, yes, Aaron, here we are at the end of our hour. I want to thank you for joining us. Let us know what is new. Like, what should we be looking forward to in terms of Lugano, Blockstream, Plan B, everything you got going on? Tell us where we can find more about what you're doing and what Blockstream is building.
I mean, if you are a business and if you want to start implementing Bitcoin, for sure you can reach to us and we can, put you in the pipeline of customers interested in Bitcoin accumulation, Bitcoin infrastructures, and we will come also in the future with new products for enterprise. That's 100% sure. If you are retail and you want to use a wallet, native wallet on Bitcoin, now we are implementing a lot of improvements for the swap on Liquid. Not our, but actually one of our project for layer 2 on Bitcoin. If you want to just meet Bitcoin people, you can come in Lugano and find the Bitcoin City and the Plan B forum, the same as El Salvador. And you are in a nice place to discover more about Bitcoin, about us, whatever you are.
Beautiful. Well, Aron, it's been absolutely awesome having you on the show. Would love to have you back in the future. Enjoy El Salvador. It's sunny.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. It was a pleasure.
Cheers, man. All right.
Cheers.
We are going to hand off the show to the next one. And thank you so much for coming on, man. We'll talk soon.
See you.
All right, Rob, great guest. Great to see that. Good old Blockstream. We're going to be coming on here in a minute. We have a great guest lined up here on the show. Kind of learning the ropes on this new format we're doing. So we're going to have Ted Paulus, co-founder and CEO of the Orange Wheel, coming on here in a couple minutes. So be right back. Sorting out some tech items, but going to be getting started here. Couple minutes.
I said a hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike and I like to say hello. Up to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, and the purple, and yellow. But first I gotta bang bang the boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song.
Check it out, I'm the CASN, the OVA, and the rest is FLY. You see, I go by the code of the doctor of the mix, and these reasons I'll tell you why. You see, I'm 6'1" and I'm tons of fun, and I dress to a T. You see, I got more clothes than Muhammad Ali, and I dress so viciously. I got bodyguards, I got two big cars that definitely ain't the whack. I got a Lincoln Continental and a sunroof Cadillac. So after school, I take a dip in the pool, which is really on the wall. I got a color TV so I can see the Knicks play basketball. Him and talking my checkbook, that it costs more money than a sucker could ever spend. But I wouldn't give a sucker or a punk from the rock and not a dime till I made it again. Everybody go, hotel, motel, what you gonna do today? Is I'm gonna get a fly girl, gonna get some spank and drive off in a death OJ. Everybody go, hotel, motel, holiday inn. You say if your girl starts acting up, then you take her friend. I'm Master G, I'm out mellow, it's on you, so what you gonna do?
Well, it's on and on and on and on and on. The beat don't stop until the break of dawn. I said a M-A-S, a T-E-R, a G with a double E. I said I go by the unforgettable.
See if I can get my camera working here and we'll be in business.
Good morning. Good evening.
Morning. Thanks everybody for your patience while we get all this going. Let's see. Give me one sec. There we go. All right.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. Ted.
Hi, Sean. Nice to meet you.
Nice. What's that?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Audio okay? Am I technically good here?
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're already live. So we kept things going. So Ted, and I say the last name Paulus, right?
That's right.
Got it. CEO and co-founder of Orange Wheel, and also have my esteemed colleague Matt Aggie with me. Matt, hope you're keeping warm down there in Texas. It's fucking cold up here in Chicago. Not gonna lie, like it's just been like full cold, and we got snow yesterday. So yeah.
I can't complain, Sean, because I'm sure it's much colder where you are. But for Texas standards, yeah, it's a cold one today. 27 degrees.
I think it's been what is it been? Somewhere like it was like minus 25 over the weekend with the wind chill. I don't know. I walked outside and I was like, it's cold. And so yeah.
Well, Ted, you're based in Denmark, right? So how are things over there?
Yeah, I mean, by Danish standards, it's been a cold winter as well. I mean, I came back from my hometown, Calgary, Canada, where I was for Christmas, and it was like minus 20-ish the entire time. And, that's par for the course in Calgary, right? But then I came back here and it was almost the same temperature. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I've been here for 7 of the last 10 years. And like, usually it will almost never drop below 0. So it's been chilly. But I get to get good use of all my Canadian clothing this winter.
Yeah. So Ted, why don't we dive right in? Tell us about yourself. Tell us, a little bit about yourself. What is Orange Wheel? Give us the lowdown.
Would love to. Yeah. Thanks again for having me on, guys. Glad to be on this, on the podcast, speaking with some like-minded folks. So as I mentioned, I'm a Canadian. I'm an engineer by background. I studied chemical engineering and worked in the Canadian oil and gas industry for the first part of my career. So for about 5 years, I was doing kind of technical stuff, subsurface, mainly production and reservoir engineering, and then migrating gradually more into the kind of transactional part of the business. So kind of thinking about asset divestments, acquisitions, joint ventures. It was kind of a natural progression doing the reservoir modeling, seeing where the upside potential was on a well by well and facility basis, and then kind of informing our economic and transaction models with that information. So that was a lot of fun, but I kind of got a little bored of it when I was in my late 20s, and just always had this bug to want to work and live internationally. Also kind of knew I wanted to do my MBA at that time. Wasn't sure if I'd go to the States or go to Europe. I both kind of appealed to me. Knew I didn't want to stay in Canada in any case. So I took a year as a sabbatical in Europe to kind of test it out and see how I liked it, to make that decision of whether to go to the States or stay in Europe, or go to Europe rather. Took a year and a half. It ended up being. I traveled around for a little while on my bicycle. Loved traveling by bike. Started in northern Italy, ended in Berlin. Stayed in Berlin for about a year, and then did my MBA. That got me into decided to stay in Europe to do it. So that decision was made. That got me into the world of management consulting. I ended up working with the Blockstream consulting group in their energy practice out of Oslo, and that gave me a broader perspective onto aspects of energy outside of oil and gas. A lot of the business I was doing was still oil and gas, but international now, Europe and international businesses, and then also looking into electrons as well. So looking at energy, electricity generation, and the whole electricity value chain. Rejoined industry in a corporate strategy function here in Copenhagen with various Maersk businesses, Maersk Oil, and later Maersk Drilling. And then kind of, I'd been into Bitcoin since about 2013, actually, while I was in Berlin. But I didn't really have the courage to make a foray into the space until COVID. And that was through Bitpanda. So I ended up building Bitpanda, which is, for those not aware of it, it's kind of like the Coinbase of Europe. Coinbase is, of course, available in Europe, but in the German-speaking world, Bitpanda is kind of the most commonly used crypto exchange. And
And I got to build that company through kind of hyper growth phase, and also right up until crypto winter, the most recent one in late 2022. But I've always been a Bitcoiner at heart, so it was more by circumstance that I ended up at a kind of crypto casino than it was pure choice. I knew I wanted to get exposure to Bitcoin. It was kind of the closest I could get. And ultimately decided to kind of pursue my dream mid last year and start Orange Wheel, which is really my own business in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, so that's a really kind of familiar story, because it's a very similar background to my own in energy and here in Texas, but you're on the other side of the pond. So it's great to hear. I guess why Bitcoin, Ted? Like, what is your insight with starting Orange Wheel? Well, what's your insight in Bitcoin and energy, and why pursue that? Yeah,
I mean, I've definitely believe in the ethos of Bitcoin. When I discovered it when I was in Berlin in late 2012, early 2013, it clicked quite instantaneously, and I was kind of that person that was talking to everybody you could about Bitcoin, right? Because I had kind of observed the GFC and kind of the debate about Keynesian economics and whether it's actually good for society when we're bailing out banks, and is the control over the monetary supply, having that power and wielding it, does it actually create net positives or net negatives to society? I'd also read a book called The Ascent of Money, which gave kind of a historical perspective on the origin and evolution of money through human civilization. And then I've always had kind of libertarian streaks about, belief in smaller government is probably better for society. So I think I had the ingredients that made Bitcoin kind of land well with me when I saw it. Unfortunately, I was also a victim of the Mt. Gox hack that happened in 2014. So that kind of put me on the sidelines for a few years.
That feeling.
Yeah. So it put me on the sidelines, but I've always had that kind of belief in how Bitcoin is going to ultimately, if it can indeed become the monetary system of the future, will be good for society. And then Orange Wheel is really about bringing that love of Bitcoin and the ethos, along with the professional experiences I've gathered in consulting and corporate strategy, as well as the energy sector, market, and industry analysis.
So it's interesting that you bring up the energy piece, because when we put these questions together, like of how the discussion, I don't think I had in my deck to the 60 minutes. There was a 60 minutes interview with some folks in Canada. And funny enough, Matt and I had a guest on last week where they're doing mining, where they're using flaring to actually power the actual mining. And it was interesting to see that on 60 Minutes, like literally 6 days after we just talked about it, on the show here. And, you coming from that space, I know this is very familiar to you. How do you see, the Bitcoin mining markets, addressing these energy challenges? Because it's not just Bitcoin now it's also AI is like the big consumer. But when you use a case like this, where you're using flaring, you're making your own energy. So you can basically tell everybody else, piss off.
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of comes down to the competitiveness of the Bitcoin mining industry a little bit, right? I think in the earlier days when hash prices were pretty high, you kind of tap into the grid, pay for that power, and take power away from another potential consumer, right? Similar to how the AI data centers are being set up today, right?
Except there is no storing of power currently in today's world, but yeah.
Yeah. Now is it's I mean, batteries are starting to come out a little bit, right?
No, yeah. No, for sure.
But now I think as it gets more and more competitive on the mining side, it's actually forcing Bitcoin miners to go to where the energy is effectively otherwise wasted, like free energy, which either means it's off grid, so you're not competing with grid consumers or hospitals and people on life support in that regard, or you're getting energy that would otherwise be wasted, like flare gas or curtailed renewables or so forth. So I sort of see it as yes, there is competition, but I think Bitcoin mining would be uncompetitive buying from electricity grids in the future in any case. So I think that degree of competition is probably going to become less pronounced over time. And Bitcoin will kind of, I think, again, be a kind of net. Obviously, there's good on society for the fact that it's a better monetary system, but I think it's also going to be kind of soaking up and capturing that otherwise wasted energy increasingly more and more.
I didn't think of that part, to be honest. Like, I didn't think because I've been thinking so, people complain about nat gas. They say, oh, it puts methane, into the environment or whatever. And then the other one is, I could think like all the landfills that currently right now are producing exorbitant amount of gas. Yeah. Like that's gas that could be used to power all of these miners.
Totally. And I think that, it's just there's not a lack of opportunities out there. There's a lack of entrepreneurs and capital to kind of go and make this happen. But of course,
I think it's the latter part.
And then I think regulations, right? That's the other problem. And like stigma against Bitcoin still. So I think as those barriers kind of come down on the regulatory side and on the capital side, I think we're going to see Bitcoin mining kind of pop up in a lot of interesting applications. But that's going to be at the same time as the more centralized, big, mega scale Bitcoin facilities probably begin to die off.
Yeah.
So that brings up a good point that I was thinking of, Ted. It was, you're kind of you're in Europe by way of Canada. Wanted to ask you about kind of just the dynamics and the regulatory environment that you're in the energy and in the Bitcoin space. I'm in Texas, obviously a very friendly jurisdiction for kind of free market energy and Bitcoin, the first state in the country to actually fund its Bitcoin strategic reserve. I don't think you have luxury of that in Europe, but what's your experience so far? What kind of barriers are you facing or how have you found it?
Yeah, the barriers, as I mentioned, kind of regulation is certainly one of them. It's not necessarily conducive. I think the biggest one is maybe not necessarily Europe specifically. When we're thinking about buying, at least we're targeting kind of renewables that would otherwise be curtailed, so in the form of wind or solar. But pretty much in most major jurisdictions, they don't allow a third party to kind of come in and buy that otherwise curtailed energy. It needs to be the generation asset owner that consumes their own electricity, or they just allow it to be curtailed or wasted, or they have to pay negative prices. So on the one hand, it's been a barrier, but that barrier has also kind of presented an opportunity for people who can come in with novel solutions to get around it through novel contracting. It's kind of two sides of the same coin in a sense. So I think for companies like Orange Wheel, it's more an opportunity than anything else. You do certainly have tax problems as well. So it's not very, again, like positive tax environment here, especially not in the cases of Bitcoin. So those are also some barriers that to the economics to kind of make the numbers go around. VAT, sales tax, which is another one. If in most circumstances, you can't really recoup that when Bitcoin is the final product. It's not a VAT allowable product. You can't tag a 20% surplus on the Bitcoin sales. So you got these kind of elements on the taxation side that also make it a bit more punitive environment to make the economics work. And then I think the other biggest barrier is certainly sentiment, right? There's still and stigma. You still just have a large share of the population that believes Bitcoin's a scam. That it's just used by money launderers and criminals, and don't want to be associated with it. So that can also be a challenge when we're going to asset owners and explaining what we're doing. We kind of have to kind of not even name Bitcoin until later in the negotiations. We kind of start just saying this is a flexible load that's going to be co-located, and later on in the discussion we can kind of broach that aspect of the discussion.
So, honestly, I guess I'll ask the blatant question. You have everything going on right now between the U.S. and Europe, and it's such a lovely time.
Sorry to jump in, Sean, but you're Copenhagen, right, in Denmark. So, like, how much of your happy hours are about Greenland?
It's been the only thing people talk about for the last 2-3 weeks, right? So I think since the Trump speech at WEF, it's come down now, right? But but it's like, I think there's still communications from coming out of the administration saying like they're still kind of want it and they're eventually going to get it. So I think, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but definitely the direction of travel is towards more economic conflict between different parties, right? And we can't predict exactly what or when and how and which parties are going to be involved, but I think it's sort of the fourth turning playing out, which I sort of see as like, my view is this is necessary for us to kind of ultimately get to, not necessary, but this is a more accelerated rate or path that might get us to a Bitcoin standard faster. So if you think of like the current monetary system was built on the back end of World War II, with some obviously caveats, 1971 and so forth also kind of changed the nature of it. But I believe that, if we were to have something like a World War III event, negative thing, I don't want to see people die, but if it were to happen, I believe that they'll say, okay, what was wrong with this system? Okay, we had one country as the issuer of the world reserve currency. Let's not do that again. Let's set something that's neutral. So I think the silver lining of such a major conflict would be that, now again, this is a Bitcoiner speaking. Sorry, I didn't really answer your question. I think the general population is just like, negative US sentiment for sure right now. And that's also something that just seems to be increasing with time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a, based on what I've been seeing in the markets. I mean, yesterday you had the markets open up down. I mean, futures opened up on Sunday night here in the US down like almost 300. And then they were able to rally their way back up, basically to flat by the end of the day, or by the beginning of the market here this morning in the US. But to your point, I mean, I don't know. I think this could get real interesting real quick, because you have, how much energy do you have sitting in Greenland right now? How much of that energy could be used also for, AI, Bitcoin mining, things of that nature. So all of that said, I guess, Europe has always had a different tune, if you will, to mining than the US. Can you explain like a little, some of those nuances? Like what is the difference in Europe versus the US when it comes to mining?
And when we say mining, we say Bitcoin mining exclusively, not. Well, I mean, it's just there's been just less deployed here in general. And where it has been deployed, the bigger assets are going to be up in like the ones I'm aware of, at least, are like Iceland and then like northern Scandinavia. So kind of not very. So one of the major issues here is, again, very high regulations, but also NIMBYism. So it's almost impossible to build a large facility anywhere in continental Europe, because you're going to be close to somebody who's living there, or somebody's land. It's the permitting is going to be almost impossible. So you kind of have to go up where nobody lives, and also where there's no perception of like competing with more ethically
economy or whatever.
Yeah. So whereas I think in the US you have more of these kind of larger centralized plays. So if you look at the big Marathon and BitDeer and the big companies, they're American Bitcoin. They have these big kind of centralized things. So it is a bit more of the smaller scale, more decentralized. But I think where the future will be is this will be beneficial, and I think it's the direction of travel for the whole globe, as for the reasons I mentioned before, but also you're going to need revenue coming from other parts. So you're going to have to build a revenue stack where the Bitcoin is just one level within it, and then you got to think about grid balancing services, heat recovery, which can be put into district heating. Marathon's been doing that in Finland. And then the Bitcoin treasury element as well, which is like optimizing how you manage your treasury, how much of it's a product and how much of it is a reserve asset. So I think Europe's kind of well set up for that, given that it's pretty concentrated populations. You have district heating, you have a lot of different kind of levers you can kind of pull to kind of stack the revenue and optimize how much you get out of each kilowatt hour. So there's pros and cons. And I think, again, because it's underdeveloped right now, I think it's a lot more white map than a competitive market.
I mean, one thing that I wanted to say was we had a conversation last week with a gentleman who does Bitcoin options trading. one of the comments he had was that he sees, you know, currently like Bitcoin is kind of sitting almost stagnant, if you will, at it, you know, it's just bouncing around on price because you have all of this geopolitical stuff going on, which is, as we've seen with gold and silver, there's a lot of money pumping into that at the moment.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And there's only so much liquidity to go around. And so the question is, do you see that as a factor? Like, is that, you know, kind of holding up further, I would say, growth on the Bitcoin mining side? Or, you know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? So the fact that the price movement hasn't gone up as much as I think many of us had suspected a year ago, it's interesting, right? Because the hash price is kind of like what we have seen in the last couple months is the network difficulty has been coming down.
Yep.
So that means your hash price probability is actually starting to kind of come back up, even though Bitcoin's been flat. So we are seeing that kind of auto balancing effect taking place, of course, with a fairly long lag. But yeah, I certainly would say if it was a big bull run, you would have a lot more people putting mining capacity into the network. And you'd probably see a bit more of a takeoff. Now, how much of that would have actually been deployed in Europe versus in the States and other jurisdictions? Maybe just
like none.
Yeah, almost none of it. So I actually think the more competitive the hash markets are, is almost better for Europe, because I think it has these other advantages besides just relying on the hash price. But I think your point about gold, I think the macro thing is like, yeah, I wonder, this is just my guess, but like every day I think about how much do I actually want to allocate, because I'm not 100% maxi, but like the biggest my portfolios in Bitcoin. And I used to have a fairly large chunk in gold as well. I kind of brought that down to something much smaller, single digits.
Might have done that a little too early.
A little too early, right? So I've kind of been putting a little bit more back into gold over the last 6 months, let's say, right? And benefiting from that. So I wonder how many other Bitcoiners doing the same thing. We're like, all right, maybe I want to reallocate more from Bitcoin to gold.
You got to follow the money. Like,
yeah, you got to follow the trends. But I do think over the longer term, I mean, at the end of the day, Bitcoin is superior gold.
Yeah.
So if we do end up going to a world system where people actually are settling in gold, they're gonna run up against those problems of like, okay, paper gold doesn't really do the job. Actually, you need to have physical gold ultimately kind of to move this. And I think we're going to see potentially gold really spike up. But then we'll start maybe at that point realizing, okay, maybe this Bitcoin thing actually is the better overall solution. Yeah. But it might take us several years to really get there. But I think that's the end game in my perspective.
Yeah, I was trying to ask myself, like, what are the conditions that Bitcoin will do well? And what are the signs that you're seeing in the world that indicate whether or not that's happening? Mm-hmm. I kind of think that those signs are happening. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of totally natural that gold is, as this, you know, traditional store of value, is really doing well right now in those circumstances. Ultimately, I think Bitcoin, you know, with its absolute scarcity and its properties, like, you know, that we all know are far superior. So ultimately, I still think that, you know, the signposts are happening. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be inevitable.
I mean, we're still the new kid on the block. Like, that's the thing. Like, I know, you know, Bitcoin's been around since, I mean, actually in 2 years, it'll be almost 20 years. But that's not that long. Like, in the grand scheme of things, and how fast do humans change, like, and adopt? So I think, you know, I work in the capital market space for my day job and working with banks and credit unions. And one of the things I see is that, I mean, banks, they kind of did it. They wanted crypto to kind of slow 100% because it's a competition to them. And then credit unions, they've been more forthcoming with it. But I will say that ever since the Genius Act, you've seen a significant uptick in people being willing to buy just random people. And not buy garbage, like not buy, like, when I say garbage, like meme tokens and things like that. Like, not to disrespect anybody that's in the meme token market, but it's not my thing. That said, I don't know. I just think it doesn't shock me that gold is rocking and rolling. I mean, it's nice to see silver finally get its day in the sun after, you know, sitting there stagnant forever. So, Matt, I'll turn it over to you, though.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, because you brought up kind of the economics of mining, and was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what you're building, and kind of the economics that you see. Why is it still worthwhile there in the European market with renewables?
Certainly. So although our ambition is to kind of apply Bitcoin as a co-located flexible load within a variety of renewable infrastructure and across Northern Europe, we're starting more focused exclusively on onshore wind parks here in Denmark. It's potentially not the most attractive or lucrative market, but it's where I am, and it's where asset owners are certainly facing the most pronounced challenges, along with onshore solar as well. But the economics are a bit more thinner on that, just given that the sun doesn't shine that frequently. So that's our focus. Now, in terms of the company, we have only expanded into this business area in the last few months. So our focus has been on kind of getting a really good handle on the economics, building a fully stochastic model that takes into account the uncertainties regarding wind power generation for any given asset, spot prices in the electricity markets, and the hash price markets, and then running Monte Carlos on that to really understand where the upside and downside risks are, quantifying it, and thinking about how to contractually make that work for all parties. So we've really kind of been able to get very comfortable with what the nature of the risk is, and then just in the last few weeks, we've started kind of going to market now, focusing kind of on the mid-market segment. So not the really big utilities that have gigawatt scale power parks, but rather kind of ones that are run by independent power producers or infrastructure funds that are on the scale of like 5 to 50 megawatts. And then we're also hoping to kind of build out a bit of a line that's caters towards like individual turbines sitting on a farm who happens to have a large swath of land with 1 or 2 turbines on it. So those are the kind of 2 segments we're going towards, but really focusing on that mid-market one to begin with. And the economics, so it's a bit different. Again, as I mentioned, the nature of this is that we're taking what would be otherwise curtailed production or very low price power. And what's happened in these markets is because they've built out so much renewable infrastructure, so much renewable wind and solar production, you get these situations where when the sun shines or where it's very windy, spot prices drop to lows towards 0 or even negative. And this bimodality in prices is becoming even more pronounced year over year over year. So we can kind of come in and act as that floor where we will take the electricity. It's not they'll have the equipment that enables them to generate about 5 cents per kilowatt hour, which would otherwise be producing less than that or even negative. So kind of our models suggest an uplift of 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour during those like 30% of hours where the miners are turned on. So the benefit we have is the miners, the electricity is free, quote unquote. The disadvantage we have is that the miners are uptime is only 25 to 40%, depending on, I guess, other circumstances in the price market and so forth. So it's a different type. It's a little bit more complicated economics than when you just plug straight into the grid. And what this means is that really it's a CapEx game. We really got to make sure we bring the CapEx down as much as possible. And that actually means we don't necessarily need the latest generation of miners, of ASICs. We can actually get away with getting cheap older ones, preferably not used. We can get ones that have not yet been deployed or maybe have only been deployed for short periods of time, but are kind of just being the owners or the OEMs just want to offload this into the market, right? Because usually people don't want to buy old generation stuff. They just want the latest gen, which is, again, if you're in the situation where you are plugged into the grid, the game is efficiency and uptime, where you just want to get the latest generation of miners. So it's a different game, and it's one that enables us to kind of play a little bit different than others, which gives us a bit of an advantage in that regard, that we're competing on different kind of KPIs.
Interesting. I mean, here in the US, I mean, with the renewables piece, it was something that was focused on for kind of in the past administration, obviously not in the current administration. Have you seen, anything happening in that, as a result of what's going on with the administration? Are you seeing that in the actual mining space?
Not in mining per se, no. I mean, certainly Denmark has a lot of wind companies, and the fact that the U.S. is Trump is very anti-wind, it's not good for some of our companies. But I think they're getting their business in other parts of the world now. So you're definitely seeing the kind of like within that particular sector. But I haven't really seen anything that's translated into the mining side, because again, our customers are ones who have already deployed the infrastructure. They already have it built, and that would have typically been built anytime in the past, right before the latest Trump admin.
I mean, so one of the tailwinds here lately with Bitcoin mining is this 100% bonus depreciation that's kind of allowed people to recoup their investment. Is there anything like that in your neck of the woods that's incentivizing this, or is it more actually a burden?
Not yet, but I'm hoping that Europe gets their act together. And I think there was this. I don't know if you've heard of the Mario Draghi report. So he was the previous head of the ECB before Lagarde, and he came out with a fairly scathing report, basically saying Europe, if you want to be competitive, you got to deregulate, and you got to have better incentives for innovation. And he kind of had listed out a number of things, within which I think Bitcoin mining fell into a couple of those categories. One was like digitalization, and another one was kind of energy efficiency and so forth. So I think the pressure coming on from the economic wars and the trade wars that are happening, I hope will kick European regulators and lawmakers in the butt to say you guys have to up their game. And that means maybe we don't get 100% depreciation, but I think they'll be looking at the tax codes. The issue is those are national level and not at your EU level in most cases, but there can be an EU push that will try to kind of make the governments change their perspective. I think the other big one is hopefully it's a frame of mind that changes, but like within Europe, there's still a lot of people that think any energy consumption is bad. It's like we want to have lower energy consumption, that's better for the economy. And more economic output for the same amount of energy. Of course, that's good. But we don't want energy consumption to go to zero, right? Like the goal is not to have no energy consumption. That kills your economy.
Yeah,
right?
as we know, right? Like living standards are proportionate to energy consumption. So
exactly. So there's a little bit of that mindset change. You have a lot of the young people who are little like Greta Thunberg people who are going around. And I think that fortunately the whole climate debate has taken a back burner to economics, which I think is where it should be. And so I think there is priorities are changing, but the EU is infamously slow to react and implement things. So it could be a few years down the road until we start seeing those incentives. But again, with the economic war, maybe there will be more of a impetus to get things done faster.
Well, no, I mean, honestly, everything you're saying is stuff that I mean, it's kind of, you have to be a little bit under a rock not to kind of, if you're in this space, to understand, like, do you really usually go to Europe for energy? Not so much, just because it's, I mean, I don't know, our own president went after, basically was after people in Europe the other day, last week, I think it was, about energy. And all of that said, what do you see, as we, wrap up here, and give you some question, and then Matt, take us home. But as we do that, what do you see for 2026? What do you see as going to be? I'm not going to ask you, is this going to be the bull run year? Because that's just obnoxiously, honestly, I think people need to like cool their jets and just realize, like, you don't want it to go like parabolic. You want it to kind of grow steady, slow and steady. But what are your thoughts?
So I do think, it's hard to say exactly all my thoughts, because I don't know if I have a firm view in any of these ways. But I think the things I can say with confidence is that I think underneath the price, there's like just overall adoption, which I think is a one-way street. It's like the actual adoption is just growing day by day by day. Now, we don't necessarily see that in price, because on top of that, you have speculation, you have leverage, you have traders, you have all these other things kind of actually moving the price. But my kind of like proxy, there's no science behind this, but I think, you say that, I think there's very few exceptions to the fact that on any given 4-year period, day to day, there will be positive returns. I think there might have been like 1 or 2 days that violated that rule. But in general, I kind of look at the 4-year moving average and kind of say that's my proxy for overall adoption. And it might be higher than that, but I think that's kind of a floor. And so I can't imagine us, even in the worst of bull markets, where bear markets where it goes below that value. I think it's sitting around 58,000 right now, and every week it goes up a couple $100 or so. Now, the actual price movement that we witness, I think there's just so many variables that can go into it. But I do think, we'll see. Last year was the public corporate adoption that sort of fizzled out, and hopefully it gets another second wind. I think strategy is a buyer in the market all the time. I think the ETFs we'll see another wave of ETF adoption. I think the general trend is the same with gold. Like there's too many investors that are underexposed to this asset class that they need to get their exposure, whether it's only 1 or 2%. And then the governments, I don't think it's going to happen yet this year. If you asked me this last year, I'd say, governments, I mean, everything's moving. We got the Bitcoin Act in the US, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I just feel like that's still, if it happens, it's a bonus, but I don't think we'll see many governments move in the next. And I do think there's, unfortunately, in most of the world now, anything that Trump is such a pariah that anything he does is perceived as bad. So I think it's hard for any government to sell Bitcoin when the only big country that's done it is the US. So so it's hard to say. I don't know. I think it's up from where we are today, but I don't know how much. I think to be conservative, I'd sort of say 120 to 160, but I don't know.
We're gonna hold you to that next time you come on the show. So you're gonna have to hand out some free sats to everybody. No, I'm just messing with you. I mean, my only thought on that is like, I don't understand like why people. I get it'd be great to have the government buy this and all that stuff, but like, I think we all need to take a step back and realize, like, again, we're less than 20 years into this. And how many people, like gold, do you think the government just bought it immediately? I don't see that. Like it took time, and humans as a whole, they don't change super quick. Well, they do on certain topics, but not when
money is not something that adapts quickly. There's too many vested interests in the existing system.
Oh, yeah.
There's just too much resistance to change, whether it just be, it's such a high trust thing that it really is hard for new technology, I think, to kind of gain the trust of ordinary people who don't have the time or inclination to go deep into it like us nerds.
So with that context then, Ted, that you're thinking about for next year, what are your top couple of priorities for Orange Wheel? And then lastly, I guess, where can people find you and learn more about your business?
Certainly. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I might not have mentioned at the very beginning, but Orange Wheel sort of has two business areas that we focus in. One is on the corporate strategy, how to kind of apply Bitcoin strategies to a company's business. And then the second one is the business area we focused on today, which is the co-location of Bitcoin mining equipment within renewable infrastructure. So we're continuing to kind of focus on both, but the priority is going to be on the mining piece of the business. I think we just feel like the corporate sentiment's still a bit cool. If things change, we're positioned to kind of go and put more attention on it. But for now, it's a bit more of continuing to generate content, make sure we kind of maintain some thought leadership in that space, and continue to participate in relevant networks. We're really trying to tap into like traditional financial networks, wealth management networks, et cetera. And then on the mining side, our target is to deploy 3 to 5 projects this year. It's ambitious, but I think also totally manageable. The general sentiment we're getting from the market is that there is interest just from preliminary discussions, but we haven't inked a contract yet. We're in discussions with a couple of different parties, so nothing I can disclose at this stage. But I think the constraint, will quite rapidly become capital to actually get enough money to go out and purchase the equipment for the number of projects, which I think is a good problem to have. And then we'll see if we need to actually end up doing any sort of special fundraisings or build a specific infrastructure fund for this application. So I think that's going to be the next big step once we've kind of gotten customers into the pipeline. Then it's going to be about focusing on the financial side. So if we can kind of get those 2 milestones figured out this year, that would be a big success. Great success.
Well, we look forward to having you back on to talk about how that's going and get an update from you. So yeah, where can people find you?
Yeah, so we have our website. That's www.orange-wheel.com. We've just recently moved from Squarespace to Hostinger, so not all of our pages are fully constructed yet. But there you can find all the key information on the company, as well as get in touch with me to book a meeting if you're interested in learning more. And then I'm available on LinkedIn. I'll give Matt my credentials, but you just look up Ted Paulus, CFA at Orange Wheel. And we're also a little bit active on X. I've kind of diverted more of my attention to LinkedIn than X recently, but my colleague runs our X page, which is Orange Wheel. You should be able to find us on X and find some good content there. That's it. So I look forward to kind of hearing from you. I look forward to coming back on and seeing if any of my predictions have actually come to fruition.
and you have your own podcast too, right, Ted?
We do. Yeah. So that's kind of, we bring on, actually, Matt, we're going to be launching the podcast that we recorded together. That'll be coming out tomorrow or Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic.
So we look for that. It's good timing. The Orange Wheel podcast, there's a link there from our website as well. Sorry, Matt.
No, I was just saying not at all planned ahead of time or anything.
Total coincidence. Total coincidence.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, before we wrap up, though, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors that we have, on the show. Rhino Bitcoin app. If you haven't checked them out, make sure you head over, check out everything they're doing. We have Arch Lending. Arch, if you're, institutional lending, Arch is definitely the place to go. And then we also have our friends over at crypto.com. Make sure to check them out. And Bitcoin News, one of our partners, or our partner in the Daily Stack. Definitely check out everything they're working on. But Ted, super great to have you on. Thanks for coming. And now you can sign off and go talk about Greenland and how bad the U.S. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we'll definitely have you back on, and appreciate you taking the time.
Great to meet you, Sean. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Matt. Take care.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.